If you reached behind your back this morning and twisted your spine as far as it would go, waiting for that deep, gratifying crack between your shoulder blades, I need you to stop everything you are doing and listen to me. That twist you have been performing every single morning for the last 10, 20, maybe 30 years, the one that gives you 3 seconds of sweet relief before the stiffness floods right back in, it is not loosening your spine. It is not realigning your vertebrae. It is shearing apart the very structures that are keeping you upright. And after the age of 60, those structures do not grow back. They do not heal. They do not forgive. I have been a spine specialist for over 3 decades. I have reviewed thousands upon thousands of MRIs. I have stood in operating rooms and looked directly at spinal columns that were devastated not by traumatic accidents, not by years of heavy manual labor, but by decades of well-intentioned stretching and twisting performed by people who genuinely believed they were taking care of their backs. And what I see in those spines haunts me. Discs so compressed they have become translucent, paper-thin, vertebrae grinding against each other with nothing left between them to absorb the shock, facet joints swollen and jagged like broken porcelain. These were not reckless people. These were careful, health-conscious men and women who followed advice that was catastrophically wrong for their age. I want to tell you about a patient I will call Margaret. She came to see me 8 months ago, 71 years old, retired school teacher. Walked into my office holding her husband's arm because she could not stand fully upright on her own. Margaret told me she had been doing the same morning routine for over 20 years, a series of seated spinal twists she learned from a stretching video in the late 1990s. Every morning, she would sit on the edge of her bed, grab the headboard, and crank her torso as far as it would go in each direction. She told me she lived for that crack. It was the only thing that made her upper back feel alive before the day began. When I showed Margaret her MRI, she went silent. 3 of her thoracic discs, the cushions between the vertebrae and her upper back, had herniated posteriorly. The gel inside those discs had been slowly squeezed out the back, and it was now pressing against her spinal cord. The nerve compression was causing the numbness in her hands that she had blamed on carpal tunnel, the imbalance in her gait that she had blamed on aging, the dull, burning ache between her shoulder blades that never fully went away no matter how many times she twisted. Margaret looked at me and said something I have heard from hundreds of patients, but I thought I was helping. Let me take you inside your spine, because until you see what I see, you will not understand why everything you have been taught about spinal flexibility after 60 is dangerously incomplete. Your spinal column is a tower of 33 bones stacked on top of each other, and between each pair of vertebrae in your thoracic and lumbar spine sits a disc. These discs are engineering marvels. Each one has 2 parts. The outside is a tough, multi-layered ring of woven cartilage fibers called the annulus fibrosus. Imagine dozens of strips of industrial duct tape layered in alternating diagonal patterns, forming a wall that is both flexible and extraordinarily strong. Inside that ring sits a thick, gel-like substance called the nucleus pulposus. Think of it as the filling inside a jelly donut, soft, pressurized, and designed to distribute force evenly in every direction so that no single point on any vertebra bears too much load. When you are young in your 20s, 30s, even your 40s, that outer ring is resilient. It can absorb twisting, it can handle flexion, it springs back. But starting around the age of 50, something changes that almost no one talks about. Those discs begin to dehydrate. The gel inside loses water content slowly, silently, irreversibly. The outer ring develops microfissures, tiny cracks in those layered fibers, like hairline fractures spreading through old leather. By 60, most adults have discs that have lost up to 70% of their original hydration. They are thinner, drier, stiffer, and profoundly less tolerant of the forces you place on them. Now picture what happens when you twist your spine aggressively. You are taking those dehydrated, fissured discs, those dried out jelly donuts, and wringing them like a wet dishcloth. The crisscrossing fibers of the annulus are designed to resist rotation, but only up to a point. In a young, hydrated disc, That point is generous. In a 60-year-old disc riddled with microtears, that point may have already been passed years ago. Every twist widens those cracks. The pressurized gel inside migrates toward the weakest spot in the wall. Millimeter by millimeter, month by month, year by year. The filling pushes through the cracks. This is exactly how a disc herniation develops. Not from one dramatic moment, not from lifting a heavy box, from hundreds, thousands of small, repeated rotational forces applied to a structure that no longer has the integrity to resist them. A 2021 study published in the European Spine Journal followed 238 adults between the ages of 55 and 75 who regularly performed spinal rotation, stretches, seated twists, standing trunk rotations, and similar movements. The researchers compared their MRI findings to a control group of the same age who did not perform rotational stretching. The results were staggering. 67% of the stretching group showed accelerated degenerative changes in the thoracic and upper lumbar discs, compared to 31% of the control group. 43% of the stretching group showed measurable disc bulging that correlated directly with the direction and frequency of their preferred twist. They were literally steering the damage. And here is what makes this truly devastating. You cannot feel a disc fissure forming. The inner layers of the annulus fibrosus have almost no nerve supply. The deterioration is completely silent, like termites eating through the frame of a house. Everything looks fine from the outside. The walls are still standing. The roof is still on. But the internal structure is being hollowed out. And by the time you notice, you are already in crisis. A nerve root is compressed. You feel searing pain radiating around your ribcage, numbness creeping into places it has no business being, a deep ache between your shoulder blades that nothing relieves. And by that point, you have crossed a threshold that no amount of physical therapy, stretching, or wishing can pull you back from. This brings me to my second patient. I will call him Robert. 68 years old, retired firefighter, built like a man who had spent his life being strong. Robert came to me not because of pain, but because of fear. He told me he had started dropping things, coffee cups, his grandchildren's hands. His grip was failing, and he did not know why. He also noticed that his upper back had developed a pronounced forward curve over the past 2 years, a rounding that made him look, in his words, like he was slowly folding in on himself. Robert's wife had been begging him to see a doctor for months. He resisted because he believed it was just aging, just gravity winning. When I examined Robert's MRI, I found 3 levels of significant disc degeneration in his thoracic spine and early spinal stenosis, a narrowing of the canal that houses the spinal cord. The nerve compression was subtle but real, and it was affecting the signals traveling to his hands. Robert had been doing aggressive cat-cow stretches and spinal flexion exercises every morning for over a decade, movements that repeatedly loaded those degenerating discs in flexion. He was not a careless man. He was following a routine he found in a reputable fitness magazine. But that routine was designed for a 35-year-old spine, not a 68-year-old one. Here's what I told Robert, and here's what I need to tell you, because this is the part that changes everything. That stiffness you feel in your upper back every morning, that sensation that your spine has turned to concrete overnight, is not caused by tight muscles. It is not caused by a bad mattress or a poor sleeping position. That stiffness is a neurological guarding response. Your brain has detected that your thoracic spine lacks adequate support. Perhaps the discs are thinning. Perhaps the facet joints, those small paired joints on the back of each vertebra that guide spinal motion, are inflamed or arthritic. Perhaps the ligaments that bind the vertebrae together have become lax with age. Whatever the specific trigger, your nervous system has decided that the region is vulnerable. And so it does the only thing it knows how to do. It locks down the surrounding muscles like a biological splint. It creates stiffness deliberately, intentionally, protectively. Your body is not malfunctioning. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is bracing your spine against a movement that could cause catastrophic damage. And every single time you override that protection, every time you force a twist or a deep forward bend through that muscular guarding. You are ripping off the splint while the fracture is still healing. The 3 seconds of relief you feel after that crack, that is not alignment. That is a brief release of gas pressure from the facet joint capsules, a parlor trick that fools your brain into a fleeting sense of freedom, while the underlying instability remains completely unchanged, or worse. So if stretching and twisting are not the answer, what is? The answer is the exact opposite of what your instincts are screaming at you. The solution is not more flexibility. The solution is stability. Deliberate, targeted, deep spinal stability. When the muscles that are supposed to protect your vertebrae, the multifidus, the transverse abdominis, the lower trapezius, the serratus anterior, are strong enough and coordinated enough to do their job, your brain stops creating that emergency guarding response. The stiffness dissolves not because you forced anything apart, but because your nervous system finally received the signal it was waiting for: safety, support, structural integrity. The biological splint comes off naturally, voluntarily, because it is no longer needed. This is the paradigm shift that I wish every person over 60 understood. You do not need a more flexible spine, you need a more stable one. And once you have that stability, the mobility returns on its own. Let me tell you what happened to Margaret and Robert. Both of them stopped their twisting and stretching routines. Both of them began the exact exercise I am about to teach you. Margaret noticed a change within 9 days. 9 days. She told me her mornings were different. The concrete sensation she had lived with for years was softer, more manageable, and some mornings, absent entirely. Robert's results took a bit longer, about 3 weeks, but the change was dramatic. His posture improved visibly, his wife noticed before he did, and the grip strength in his hands began to return as the nerve compression in his thoracic spine was alleviated, not by surgery, not by medication, but by giving his spine the muscular support it had been begging for. Now I am going to teach you the exact exercise that changed both of their lives. It takes 60 seconds. You need nothing but a wall. And if you do it correctly with the precision I am about to describe, it will activate every deep stabilizer in your upper back and core simultaneously, giving your brain the safety signal it needs to release the guarding that has been making you feel like a rusted gate. This is called the standing wall brace. Here is exactly how to do it. Stand with your back against a flat, sturdy wall. Position your heels approximately 3 to 4 inches away from the baseboard. Let your buttocks touch the wall. Let your upper back, the area between your shoulder blades, rest against the wall. Now bring the back of your head to the wall as well. If getting the back of your head to the wall forces you to strain your neck or jut your chin upward, place a small folded towel behind your head. Comfort matters here. If your neck is straining, your body will compensate and the wrong muscles will activate. Now gently press your lower back toward the wall. You do not need to flatten it completely. A small natural curve is fine, but reduce the gap until you feel a subtle engagement in your deep abdominal muscles, not a crunch, not a squeeze, just a gentle firming of your midsection. Imagine you are about to be lightly pushed by someone. You would instinctively brace. That is the contraction I want. That brace activates your transverse abdominis and your multifidus simultaneously, the 2 deepest layers of your spinal support system. Next comes the most important part. Raise both arms out to your sides and bend your elbows to 90 degrees. So your upper arms are parallel to the floor and your forearms point straight up toward the ceiling, like a football referee signaling a field goal. Now press the entire back surface of both arms from your elbows to your wrists firmly into the wall behind you. Press them back as if you are trying to push the wall away with your arms. You will feel an immediate deep contraction fire between and below your shoulder blades. That burning engagement spreading across your upper back, those are your lower trapezius and serratus anterior muscles waking up. These are the muscles that have been dormant while your spine slowly collapsed forward into the rounded posture that has been crushing your discs for years. Hold this position, arms pressed back, core braced, head, upper back, and pelvis all maintaining contact with the wall. Breathe slowly in through your nose for 4 counts, out through your mouth for 6 counts. Do not hold your breath under any circumstance. Breath holding spikes your blood pressure and reflexively disengages your deep core stabilizers. Hold for 60 seconds. Now, let me tell you what you should feel and what you should not feel, because the difference between those two things is the difference between healing your spine and hurting it. Within the first 10 to 15 seconds, you will feel a deep, spreading burn between your shoulder blades. This is correct. This is the exact sensation you are looking for. It means the dormant stabilizers are firing, often for the first time in years or even decades. By 20 to 30 seconds, your arms will start to feel heavy. Your shoulders may tremble slightly. Do not be alarmed. That trembling is your nervous system recalibrating. It is learning to recruit muscle fibers it has not used in a very long time. This is neurological reorganization happening in real time. By 45 seconds, you may feel your lower back wanting to arch away from the wall, your body trying to find an easier position. Do not let it. Press back gently, maintain the brace. This final 15 seconds is where the deepest adaptation occurs. Here is what you should not feel. You should not feel sharp, shooting pain anywhere, not in your neck, not between your shoulder blades, not radiating down your arms. A deep muscular burn is expected and healthy. A sharp or electrical sensation is a warning signal. Lower your arms immediately and consult your physician before attempting the exercise again. You should not feel your upper traps, the muscles on top of your shoulders near your neck, bunching up or cramping. If you feel them taking over, consciously pull your shoulders down and away from your ears. The upper traps are compensators. When they fire, the deeper stabilizers you actually need shut off completely. It is like your body's lazy shortcut, and you must not let it take that route. You should also not feel pinching at the base of your skull or the top of your neck. If you do, your head position needs adjustment. Add more thickness to the towel behind your head, or allow your chin to tuck slightly downward as if you were giving yourself a subtle double chin. This aligns your cervical spine and takes the stress off structures that should not be loaded. If you cannot hold for 60 seconds, that is perfectly acceptable. Start with 20 seconds. Rest for 10. Do another 20 seconds. Rest again. Do a final 20 seconds. As your stabilizers strengthen over the coming days and weeks, you will find the holds becoming easier. You will be able to sustain the full 60 seconds without trembling, without losing form, without your lower back peeling away from the wall. That is when you know the exercise is working, not because the exercise got easier, but because your spine got safer. Perform this once every morning, before your coffee, before your shower, before you begin any activity that loads your spine. 60 seconds to rewire decades of dysfunction. Here is what happens over time, and I have seen this in patient after patient, including Margaret and Robert. Within the first week, the morning stiffness begins to change. Not disappear entirely, not yet, but soften. The concrete becomes clay. You notice a degree or two more freedom when you turn to check your blind spot while driving. Within 2 to 3 weeks, the change accelerates. You sit taller without consciously thinking about your posture, not because someone reminded you to sit up straight, but because your muscles are now doing the job automatically. The burning ache between your shoulder blades that you had accepted as an inescapable companion of aging begins to quiet. And then one morning, you will not be able to pinpoint exactly which morning it simply is not there. By 6 weeks, if you have been consistent, the transformation is profound. Reaching overhead feels different. Getting out of a car feels different. Playing with your grandchildren, getting down on the floor and getting back up feels possible again in a way that may have seemed like a distant memory. And this is the part that breaks my heart when patients like Margaret and Robert tell me about it. Because the stiffness they had accepted as permanent was never permanent. It was reversible. It was always reversible. They just needed someone to show them the right path instead of the familiar one. The psychological weight of chronic spinal stiffness is something that does not get talked about enough. The fear of bending over to pick up a grandchild, the slow withdrawal from activities that used to bring joy, that erosion of confidence is not a small thing. The damage you prevent today is the surgery you avoid tomorrow. The disc you protect this morning is the one that keeps you standing tall at 80. The 60 seconds you invest right now is the down payment on a decade of independence. Do not let gravity win. Do not let outdated advice rob you of the years you have earned. Your spine is not failing you. It has been waiting for you to give it what it actually needs. Not another twist. Not another crack. Not another stretch. Stability, strength, protection. Start tonight. Stand against a wall. Brace your core. Press your arms back. Hold for 60 seconds. And tomorrow morning, pay attention, really pay attention to how your upper back feels when you get out of bed. That subtle difference you notice, that softness where there used to be stone, that is your spine telling you, finally, thank you. Now I want to hear from you. How many years have you been twisting or cracking your upper back to start your day? And has anyone, any doctor, any trainer, any therapist ever told you why it keeps coming back, why the relief never lasts? Tell me your story in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this video changed the way you think about your spine, send it to someone you love, someone who is still twisting and cracking every morning, not knowing the price they are paying with every pop. You might save them from a surgery they never see coming. Thanks for watching.